I think this final should be a lot of fun, right? I actually feel like Michael said his matchup is pretty doable.
Yeah.
But man, the way Riley's playing, I certainly wouldn't want to predict against him.
Yeah, there's a team matchup and then there's player matchup, and Riley is on another level right now. But Michael is no slouch, has qualified for Worlds in the last season, so would be able to qualify for the 2024 World Championships with just 2 victories here. Of course, running this Tyranitar and Komo team, which I was fascinated hearing the discussion both in Michael's interview and with Lynn and Jake and Sierra on the couch. Komo makes a ton of sense. You know, when I thought of Iron Defense, Body Press teams, and Tyranitar teams in the past, you think of like Corviknight. And Komo kind of is just better Corviknight, because Corviknight often uses the Dragon Terra type, and it just starts there.
Yeah, I mean, Dragon's never been better as a defensive type than it is right now, right? Flutter Mane falling allows that sort of thing to rise. I think it's a really cool meta call.
All right, and he will be going up against Riley Factura, the 5 times regional champion, one of which was in one of the 2 previous regionals of this season. The other regional of this season, the Peoria Regional Championship, top 8, so has never not cut in 2024 season.
Yeah, not only is he going for that 6th regional championship, but looking to take a 3-1 lead over the rest of North America on World Championships invites.
Absolutely, and you know, I first looked at this team and thought, oh, Riley's bringing all of the good Pokemon, but actually Riley is not using the top usage mons. There is no Flutter Mane, there is no Landorus, there is no Iron Hands on Riley's team. So actually just the best of the rest that people maybe have been overlooking.
Yeah, I think you know, Riley just using what he thinks is strong, and it's looking smart, right? I mean, Amoonguss hasn't shown up on a top 12 usage chart so far in Regulation E. They're both King Gambit, and Chien Pao and Dragonite have all made some appearances, but like towards the bottom of that chart. The combination of these Pokemon is really cool, right? Again, and just like not something people have really thought about. Both sides actually kind of using a mix of the big dogs of the format, and then maybe some other Pokemon that are more contextually powerful. So, you know, a matchup we haven't gotten to see before, which should make this really fun.
Yeah, this should be an exciting matchup for sure. I am really interested in seeing how these 2 teams are going to match up. Riley bringing basically only physical attackers plus Grass Knot on the Amoonguss into an Iron Defense Komo. Seems risky, but has ways to punish things like the Intimidate on the Hisuian Arcanine, and as well Sacred Sword and other options and the critical hits from Urshifu to completely ignore those boosts.
Yeah, I feel like probably the Komo is going to outscale Riley, so it's kind of a matter of not letting it set up or letting it or punishing it so hard as it's setting up that it doesn't really matter if it gets going. Then Amoonguss seems like it's going to be a really key Pokemon this matchup to kind of slow things down, and then I think it's going to be very important to keep the pressure on. You know, we've seen how powerful that Dragonite can be, but not unlike that Komo, you know, kind of a little bit more like defensively oriented. I'll be excited to see again that Tyranitar, where I think there actually is a pretty good chance that it's quicker than the Dragonite, and that would make this matchup highly irregular between those Pokemon.
Well, we are headed into game 1 here, and Riley immediately catching the Intimidate on the leads. That is now going to be a Defiant boosted King Gambit at +1 after the Intimidate. The Intimidate will stick onto Chien Pao, but Komo is out on the field and able to start boosting itself should it want to. Of course, the King Gambit with +1 will be dealing resisted damage into the fighting type, but the Chien Pao at least has the ability to burst through those stat drops with the Sacred Sword.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what Riley does here. The fun of Michael's lead is I think basically every potential move he could make makes sense. Or he could click any of the moves with both of these Pokemon. So I think, especially if these players haven't played so far in the tournament, it's a really tough move for Riley. He's been predicting so well over the course of this tournament, but there's a lot to consider here. Could do super effective damage to either of his Pokemon. Could go for the burn, could try to set up Iron Defense. Everything makes sense.
Absolutely. Chien Pao's Sacred Sword actually just connecting with the Arcanine, dealing good damage back to it, activating the Citrus Berry. Again, this is a bulkier support Hisuian Arcanine, the Citrus Berry healing back up, and the Will-O-Wisp connecting onto Chien Pao. Certainly a move that makes sense to me, going to limit the amount of damage that Chien Pao can do, especially because that's the one of the Pokemon that can actually hit through the boost, but Body Press straight up one-hit KO onto that King Gambit, and Michael Zhang taking an early lead here in game 1.
Oh, that's a heck of a first turn, right? First of all, you're like, nice Defiant, right? Never actually get the chance to use it. The reduced damage now from this Chin Pao is going to be a big deal too. And I like going the offense here, right? Why go for the potential of getting crit, especially because Urshifu is coming out here. We've just ignored the iron defense anyway. Get a huge early lead and start applying some pressure. It's going to be tough now because you have to do some repositioning if you want to actually, at some point in this battle, get the iron defense off. But we saw the water terastallization last round. That'd be an option here again to maybe try to get another burn onto that Urshifu. Once again, there's a lot of potential moves that Michael can make that are all good, which really makes things tricky for Riley, right? We've seen him make a lot of pins where kind of every move he made was going to work against where the opponent was. He's not able to take such strong control of this matchup.
Absolutely. The Arcanine really exerting a lot of pressure, threatening the Will-O-Wisp onto all of these physical attackers. Actually going to be the terastallization from the Chin Pao, so Ghost Terra for Chin Pao to dodge out on any potential body presses coming out from the Como-O. So even despite the burn on Chin Pao, Riley identifying that, okay, I really want to keep this Pokemon around so that I can hit through any defense boosts. But Arcanine also going to terastallize into that water type, will be able to survive surging strikes because of that. We have previously seen even just a single surging strike be able to pick up the KO onto Arcanine, but not this time. Thanks to that terastallization, Arcanine able to survive this turn, will be able to launch an attack after surviving those surging strikes that Riley locked into with the Choice Scarf Urshifu. It's going to be the Sacred Sword coming right back out, and actually without the super effective damage on the rock typing, and because of the burn, Arcanine survives once again, but the Flare Blitz recoil will be enough to finally pick up the KO, self-KO on the Hisuian Arcanine, but actually went out by dealing a little bit of good damage to that Urshifu, while Como-O is able to start iron defensing up.
Yeah, I mean, the opportunity cost is sort of significant there, right? It doesn't look super great there, you knock yourself out, but it's a totally free iron defense. You're going to get a switch now to get some help on the field, either the Rillaboom with the fake out and the grassy terrain to make it even more difficult to knock out this Como-O. So yeah, I don't think you're upset about this at all. And you committed the terastallization, but kind of who cares? Where you need your base typing anyway. You kind of mentioned before, trying to become a steel type against this Chin Pao, even after the burn, probably not the greatest decision. So hey, pretty good trade by the Arcanine, and that bulk is really impressive.
Yeah, and I really love Michael bringing the Rillaboom here, and the prioritization Michael has made on Riley's team, getting the burn off onto Chin Pao, bringing the Rillaboom in here now. Chin Pao and Urshifu are how Riley breaks through Como-O. With Chin Pao burned, the Sacred Sword is not going to be as effective as it could be. With Rillaboom out on the field, it is threatening priority Grassy Glide KOs into that Urshifu, which forces the switch from Urshifu, which Michael, seeing the Amoonguss, caught it on the switch. That's a big taunt coming out from Rillaboom. If it can survive this Ice Spinner from the burned, intimidated Chin Pao, easy. No terrain anymore, but catching the Amoonguss with a taunt on a switch-in, what a gutsy play from Michael.
Correctly predicting the final Pokemon. I think it's certainly a Pokemon that's very important for Rally in this matchup. Gets the body press there too. A bunch of big damage. Yeah, I really like that move either way, right? The taunt was going to look a little silly if he missed it, but you don't really need the damage. And then body press into that slot is right no matter what Pokemon winds up being there. It's a really well-played game so far.
Yeah, Michael in complete control of this game one. Incredible Como-O plays, incredible Rillaboom plays, just the pressure that the potential Grassy Glide elicited in Riley. And this is one of those things, Riley has been predicting extremely well throughout this entire tournament, but Michael is not a player that he would have a lot of experience playing against, and knowing the various methods that people like to play is a huge part of making those reads.
Yeah, I think also just having good board position, right? Where ultimately, I don't know what else Riley could have done. I think that Pollen Puff's actually pretty big though.
Significant damage.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking it might be a Spore into this Como-O slot, but then you still have to deal with it at some point. Instead, Rillaboom now, at least in some serious danger of being knocked out, can't Grassy Glide because Chin Pao destroyed the terrain, so at least have a real chance of picking that up, and then maybe having Urshifu come back in later using the power of that Sword of Rune to try to burn through this Como-O.
Yeah, the Amoonguss unfortunately not even able to Spore back because of the taunt on the switch-in, so the big damage from Pollen Puff proving that this Rillaboom is not the Assault Vest variant, it is the Miracle Seed to try and get big damage from the Grassy Glide.
Yeah, I guess in this situation, he might be better off anyway, because the problem is even if you put it to sleep, I mean, I don't know that would help all that much even if you could.
It would give you more shots to crit eventually, but Riley has to preserve that Amoonguss to maybe try to get some sleeps in the future. Chien Pao's Ice Spinner connects on the Rillaboom, so we'll actually be able to pick up the KO this time now that Amoonguss did the heavy lifting with that Pollen Puff. So the Rillaboom goes down. Como, though, catches the Urshifu on the switch-in, and oh, you can't give up the Urshifu against a multiple iron defensed up Como. That is just not going to happen.
Yeah, that may be pretty much game. Unlike this, I do think Rage Powder makes a big difference there because it actually lets another Pokemon attack, but not going to happen now. These two Pokemon both going to be threatening a lot of damage the other way. Trainer is certainly not going to appreciate even a burned Sacred Sword, but having to focus down that Tyranitar leaves room for Como to keep swinging away.
Yeah, the one saving grace is that because this Chien Pao is Ghost type, Como has to use Iron Head on it, so there is a world where Chien Pao is able to launch multiple Sacred Swords into that slot after dealing with this Tyranitar, but that burn coming up so big early on, recognizing that the only way to really control Chien Pao's damage output is to prioritize getting the burn.
Yeah, especially because now he's just kind of ignoring it, right? And using the Sword of Ruin to burn down the other slot over and over again with the reduced defense.
Yeah, well, Riley is going to have to make a miracle happen here, or else Como is going to go up 1-0 in this first game in this set. Chien Pao actually just going to protect away this turn, not going to risk taking any damage from either the Tyranitar or the Como, but Michael is not falling for it, just knocking off the Citrus Berry and the Body Press double up, and that is it for Amoonguss in this burned Ghost. Chien Pao has no answer for this Iron defensed up Como and this Tyranitar on the field.
Yeah, what a game won by Michael there. Kind of just had control the whole way through. Kind of the same sort of way we saw in Riley's previous games. He kind of just always had such a strong position that his opponents were sort of forced to make moves that were more advantageous for Riley than for them. In this match, Riley never really felt like he had a chance, right? Where I don't feel like the switch to Amoonguss or to Urshifu were really that bad.
Yeah.
He just only had bad options available to him.
Yeah, just like you were saying very early on, Michael only had good options. Every move made sense, and you can see through the burn, not even this 4-time super effective Sacred Sword is taking out that Tyranitar. Knockoff picks up the KO, and Michael Zhang is now one game away from locking in his invite to the World Championships and taking down Riley.
Yeah, I mean, Riley's been amazing, but Michael was perfect in that game, right? I think,
absolutely.
Excellent leads, had control of the game every turn. There was never really any chance for things to go wrong. I think that's a really disheartening game one if you're Riley, right? Where you've had some time to think about this one, especially because his semifinal was first, and that is not the way he was expecting that one to go, I don't think.
Yeah, and it was that King Gambit getting taken out immediately on turn one. The pressure of this Arcanine and Como lead into Riley's extremely physically offensive team. Just nothing really that Riley could do. Like you said, only bad options. Any move that Michael picked would have made sense on those early turns, and it all came up big in this end game where Como just got out of control. Riley couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah, I think it's almost kind of a flex too, but he led the Como.
Yeah.
I don't think there was any question that was eventually going to be the most pivotal Pokemon on Michael's side of the field, but it was just kind of out there to be attacked the entire game, and it never happened.
Yeah, well, like you said, one of the crucial things about this Como is you have to make sure that it can't get rolling. And one of the ways you make sure it can't get rolling is you take control of the game and force it into bad positions. If Como is just out there, then all of a sudden, like, you're having to make real big reads to make sure that this Como doesn't go out of control.
Yeah, I think the lead matchup is one thing to go back to there, where you see the King Gambit immediately get destroyed, doesn't even move. There's a burn in the Chien Pao, which winds up being kind of a huge problem for the game because Chien Pao is just sort of standing there doing nothing and causing a damage boost for the other team. I think he's gonna have to change the lead matchup, right? I don't think any of them are like super great. Where the Dragon type has been so good defensively, and it makes Ogerpon look almost unpickable. It's just a tough position.
All right, well, here is game two. And it turns out Ogerpon is not unpickable at all. Going to go ahead and lead both the crit machines on Riley's side. Ogerpon with the Hearthflame Mask and the Urshifu, that Choice Scarf, both of them taking an Intimidate. Ogerpon really the only one that cares about that right now. But again, the same lead from Arcanine and Como. Importantly, one of the big benefits that this Ogerpon does have is it cannot be burned.
It can't be burned, can follow me, so at least it allows Riley to keep one of his attackers safe, but also neither of these Pokemon like being intimidated. Well, I guess Urshifu doesn't care that much as long as he's using resisted Surge and Strikes. It does force him into the bad type matchup, but yeah, the flip side is that, Ogerpon itself not going to do a whole lot here if it doesn't get a critical hit. And Rillaboom going to come in, try and help Como out just a little bit.
Yeah, Rillaboom setting the terrain, which will be important for the recovery on that Como. Takes a close combat for its efforts. So the Intimidate actually impacting the Urshifu right there. Rillaboom possibly able to start threatening fake out pressure now, especially after just taking a little bit of a resisted Horn Leech, and Como is getting rolling. And there's probably a safe second Iron defense coming out here because Rillaboom has the ability to fake out or just start going for damage on Pokemon like that Urshifu with Grassy Glide.
Yeah, kind of an interesting spot, right? I think faking at the Ogerpon makes sense. Attacking the Urshifu slot makes sense. It's a big
They're
lead
all good options.
Yeah, well, it makes things so tricky for Riley, right? Where, when you have a little bit more control of your opponent's side of the field, at least it makes him a little more predictable. I guess at least in this situation, he's threatening a knockout with the Ogerpon onto the Rillaboom, but if you went for that, that would come at a cost too.
Yeah, and actually Como feeling extremely safe to keep clicking the Iron defense button here because Riley locked into close combat. Missed out on the KO on the Arcanine. The fake out onto Ogerpon means that Ogerpon will flinch in another completely free Iron defense. The big adjustment here is that Amoonguss is now on the field and has not been taunted. So you do have the ability to start putting that Como to sleep.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice pin this time by Riley, right? Riskily didn't go for the Spiky Shield last turn, but does get these two Pokemon safely. They're threatening a potential knockout onto the Rillaboom, which it keeps Amoonguss free of the taunt, though he would take a big body press perhaps into the Ogerpon slot as a cost of getting that Spore out.
Yeah, well, this Rillaboom, unfortunately, is extremely perilous position. Goes for the Grass Terra typing is actually the choice that Michael has made for the big damage on Grassy Glide, which means that Ogerpon can just fire this Ivy Cudgel away, KO the Rillaboom through the Intimidate there as Como protects it out. Amoonguss goes for the Spore, but now Michael gets to switch in a Pokemon. We already saw a Pokemon that would love to switch in onto this Amoonguss and this Ogerpon, and that is the Arcanine.
Yeah, I mean, get another Intimidate down, so further reducing this Ogerpon's damage, but to an extent it feels like it's done its job a little bit. The Amoonguss now in a situation where maybe this time it can get the Spore off, and Ogerpon doesn't look so bad.
Yeah, Ogerpon looks okay here, especially if it can start getting crits, but this Amoonguss has to be scared of the Flare Blitz and the Body Press coming out from the Como. Is able to Terrasilize into the Water typing to resist the fire damage, but also would remove its resistance to the Fighting type Body Press here.
Yeah. And Follow Me would have been an option. Remember, this isn't that sword stance. But instead, switching out of battle, bringing the Urshifu back in.
Urshifu just trying to get in. No Terrasilization. Big damage on that Amoonguss from the Flare Blitz, but not enough to pick up the one-hit KO. Again, this is a support Hisuian Arcanine, so not the amazingly huge damage we see out of the Choice Band. Instead, keeping the resistance to the Body Press, and just barely enough. Amoonguss holds on and actually is going to Spore down the Hisuian Arcanine.
That's very interesting, right? I mean, at least it protects itself a little bit more, but you already have the type advantage of that slot, right? It keeps Amoonguss in a position where you can start to make things happen, but the biggest threat eventually is this Como. How is he going to deal with it?
Yeah, and it looks like Como is actually just able to do whatever it pleases. Amoonguss switching out. Amoonguss, when it gets low, always loves to switch out to try and get that Regenerator health back, but Ogerpon switching in instead means it's going to take big damage from this Como. Riley going on the defensive here, going to Terrastilize. Oh, sorry, that was Michael Terrastilizing the Hisuian Arcanine to protect itself from the Surging Strikes. That is the Water Terror. We already saw it be able to tank those Surging Strikes with ease after Terrastilizing, and Riley extremely prioritizing this Arcanine, does not want to get his Pokemon burned again.
Yeah, Como's still going to get to act though, and I think body pressing either slot would be devastating, and both of them would make sense.
Absolutely, and Arcanine actually just shrugging off almost all of that damage because of the Citrus Berry.
Yeah, no Sword of Rune this time, doing even less than we saw in the previous game.
Yeah, so Arcanine just going to be asleep for this turn, just tanks the damage and continues to snooze. That's how little those Surging Strikes did, and Body Press picks up the KO on the switch end.
Yeah, I mean, not much Ogerpon can do there, and Riley's kind of just forced to give up a Pokemon, right? Something's got to take that Body Press. I think he believes he needs the Amoonguss to finish this game, which makes a lot of sense, and so I was a little surprised this board didn't go into the Como slot.
Well, here is the final Pokemon revealing why Riley has been so scared of the Arcanine. As seen in Game 1, getting this Chien-Pao burned has been a huge problem. Has the body press ability now, is already Iron defensed up, so these Sacred Swords are going to have to do a lot, and these Surging Strikes are going to have to do a lot because it's too late to worry about the burn now. Como has to be dealt with.
Absolutely, and hey, if nothing else, we still have this Terastallization, so once again, we'll not be able to body press into that Chien-Pao slot.
Yeah, so Chien-Pao, the Ghost-type Surging Strikes, again connecting on the Arcanine, trying to protect this Chien-Pao as much as possible from any burns coming out from the Arcanine. This time, no berry to save you. You're actually gonna have to have that damage stick, but you know, Michael is able to wake up after this turn. Actually, not able to wake up if you've been knocked out, so hoping to get a free turn on a body press into that Ghost Terra, but Michael has just been playing out of his mind here, not falling for it. Body press, one-hit KO on the Urshifu.
As Como is just pumping out a lot of damage, and Amoonguss is going to get that regenerator, but it's going to be pretty close to the point where body press would be a knockout in that too. Tyranitar entering the battle now. I think predictably the final Pokemon, but not something Riley wanted to see. I think the combination of sand and a body press could perhaps take out this Amoonguss, and certainly a single knockoff into this Chien-Pao slot would be disastrous.
Yeah, but this time Chien-Pao isn't burned, which means that the Sacred Sword, and nor is it intimidated.
Yes, okay, I could just pick up the knockout here.
That's a Sacred Sword into Tyranitar. One-hit KO. This Amoonguss, if it can survive a body press from the Como and put it to sleep with Spore, Riley has found an out, but not able to hang on. The body presses, the Iron defenses are too much. Como takes that KO. That being said, Riley, by terastallizing into the Ghost type, has eliminated the powerful body press. Como has to use Iron Head.
Yeah, should be really fascinating into this game. You can see Iron Head and Sacred Sword getting traded back and forth. Como does have the advantage of those leftovers. Can at some point protect to try to get a little bit more sand damage. Could matter here. Iron Head not very likely to be a one-hit KO.
Yeah, a couple turns of sand damage left after, or a few turns of sand damage because that Tyranitar had just switched in. Riley is going to need big things out of this Chien-Pao. Extremely smart to protect the Chien-Pao from getting burnt, so there actually is a chance here, but this Como otherwise ran over the remaining 3 Pokemon. Chien-Pao is going to have to pull something off huge.
Yeah, and there is a chance though, right? We saw last game, poor Chien-Pao just never really got a serious blow off, but it makes sense. It's a very physically attacking oriented team, right? You have to use the ways to get rid of the defense boost,
okay.
But I just don't know if that's going to be enough.
Well, that's not a whole lot of damage from that Iron Head back either.
Yeah, the big difference,
the sand
is that
huge
the
right
sand is going to be big, and even once the sand expires, right, this Como is going to keep having these leftovers. Every other turn, it gets to heal up a little bit, and this Chien-Pao doesn't. Like, eventually, that could make up a full turn of damage.
So the Chien-Pao just did 54 damage to the Como, which means that Como has 3 Sacred Swords in it, unless Chien-Pao gets a critical hit here. Plus leftovers recovery might make this a little bit difficult.
Yeah, I think Riley absolutely needs a critical hit to stay in this one. We could be seeing a new regional champion.
The Protect from Como, the Sacred Sword into the Protect, sand damage chipping away at that Chien-Pao. Probably only has 1 more Iron Head in it. Most of this damage has actually come from the sand, but Riley really needs something big right now. And honestly, it may still not be enough. Even a critical hit doesn't KO the Como here, and then you just have sand damage to add on top.
Yeah, I mean, unless this is a damage roll, so you need at least 2 more Sacred Swords.
Extremely tense moments. Michael is just a couple of turns away from becoming our regional champion. Riley needs a critical hit in order to keep the dream of a second regional championship alive in the 3x world invite out of the Sacramento regional championships. These players are on the edge of their seats as we wait to see how much damage the Sacred Sword can do.
I guess thinking hard here, I mean, looking for any out in this situation, but I don't know. Let's see it's a very tense moment. Riley's played an incredible tournament, an incredible season so far, but he may finally be toppled here. No critical hit.
No critical hit there. I guess you get 1 more shot, it looks like. You get 1 more shot, and I guess the question is, does a Sacred Sword critical hit, if you're going for the critical hit anyway, do you just go for Ice Spinner to deal more damage?
I think so, right? Because you need the crit.
You need the crit. Como goes for the Protect. So getting the leftovers recovery, Riley now switching to Ice Spinner, needs the extra damage if you have to rely on the crit anyway. So here it will all come down to this last turn of the game, potentially the set and potentially the regional finals. Como versus the Chen Pao. Ice Spinner goes off, connects into the Como, deals the damage, but not a critical hit. Como survives, fires back an Iron Head, and Michael Zhang takes down Riley, becomes your Sacramento, California regional champion.
Incredible run. Michael defeating the undefeatable there. Riley shut down. Incredible set there, right? He played just an amazing match. He kind of the advantage the entire time. I think Riley made some great adjustments. He really made that final game a nail-biter.
I can't believe Riley found the way to make that game 2 as close as it was at the end. That was incredible, but Como was just a brick wall.